Carry out machine operator maintenance is what this module is called, and now we're going to start to get into some interesting stuff for you. A lot of walkarounds with machines, a lot of looking at machines and talking about the maintenance, and certainly all these elements are going to be relative to running a Diggermate business because it all revolves around keeping your equipment up to date and fixing things when our machines get broken.
Maintenance and repairs to any machine can only be done by a qualified person. Okay, so what we're looking for is the most commonly wear parts of a machine, and you'll find that it'll always check your cutting edges, your bucket teeth. Same with the excavator, you've got cutting edges, your teeth, look for wear, look for anything that's missing, so they're your common wear parts. Tyres, because the skid steer loader, because you're skidding so often, they're a common wear part. Your pins and your bushes, they are where you're looking for slop in your machine. The other thing to look for is when you're with the excavator now, you're looking for your drive sprockets. They're a common wear part. Your blades down here, your pins, your bushes. So they're all your common wear parts. Your tracks are pretty good, but they are still a common wear part. So they're the things that you should be checking every day before you actually start to make sure everything's there. Post-operational checks that you need to do on the completion of a job each day to make sure the machine's prepared for the next day's work or the next person operating is go around and check that there's no damage, walk around the machine, look underneath again to see if there's any leaks. Check your cutting edges, check your hoses. Same with any machine you're on, whether it be the excavator or the skid steer. Make sure your fuel levels are good, your hydraulic levels are up there, and there is no damage to the machines, to the cab especially. Okay, faults can be recorded in a fault record book or in a pre-start at the start of a day.
When topping up hydraulic fluid, you should always allow for expansion and flow of the hydraulic fluid. So on most hydraulic fluid indicators, you want the hydraulic level to be halfway up that. So never fill hydraulic fluid all the way to the top. You need to only fill it about halfway up or 3/4 of the way up to allow for expansion and flow of the fluid. You should always be checking your machines for problems, always keeping an eye out. But the crucial ones are the daily checks. Make sure you do your pre-start and your post reports on your machines, and that'll have you covered. To prevent your machine from unintended movement during servicing or preparing it for a service, you need to park it on level ground, isolate it. If there's an isolator switch, remove the key, and engage any locking mechanisms on the boom or buckets on that particular machine. You know when to service things on a machine by the service logbook, maybe the hour meter, or you may have to service it because of a fault report in a fault report book. Always refuel machines in the evening after they're finished use. This will stop condensation in the tank. If there's any space at all between the fuel and the top of the tank, there's an opportunity for the tank to sweat, create condensation, and contaminate the fuel. When refueling a machine, the basic steps are 1, park it in a safe area. 2, isolate the machine with the isolator switch. 3, record the intake of fuel. So to change the bucket, you'll need a couple of tools. Hole punches, a mallet, and obviously you're probably going to need a new bucket tooth. In this case, we're going to use a brand new bucket today, so we don't have a bucket tooth to replace. Now the safety element to this is if the bucket is still on the machine, You're going to have to get the bucket off the ground and then chock it with some safety blocks or bars underneath the machine. You should never work on a bucket without having it supported underneath, because we don't want it to fall down. In this case, we've just got some blocks underneath the bucket because we're working on the ground without the bucket on the machine. So you just got to knock the pin through with a punch. It's probably going to take a little bit of force, so you've got to give it some fairly solid wax, knock it all the way through, then the tooth will come loose and you just pull the tooth off. Then it's just same in reverse, put the new tooth on, knock the pin back in until it's all nice and flush. So that's it. It's a pretty simple process. The element of this is safety, because as the buckets get older, they're going to be harder and harder to knock that pin out. You're going to need to use quite a bit of force. So make sure the bucket is chocked nice and safe so it won't fall down once you start pounding it to get that pin out.